Hello, as part of our Google Hangout series, where we'll discuss advocacy tonight. I'm Zach Shaya. I'm the Executive President of the High School Division. I apologize for the late start. We had a few technical difficulties, but I am happy that you all are here listening, and we hope that you can learn something to help you advocate better for DECA and CTE this coming February for Advocacy Month. So I want to start by allowing our panelists, our three panelists that are on with us now, to introduce themselves. So Alec, why don't you start?
Hello, my name is Alec Romero, and I'm a state representative from Arizona DECA.
Awesome. Virginia?
Hi, I'm Virginia Bolger, and I'm the Virginia DECA State President.
And Carter.
Hello, everybody. I'm Carter Christensen. I was the Zach of last year as DECA's National now Executive President, and I'm an Assistant Director for South Dakota DECA.
Okay. And Johnny Hubbard, who is currently the Collegiate DECA Executive President, may be joining us in just a little bit. But we'll get started. We'll get started now and hope he joins us. So I will turn it over to Virginia to talk a little bit about advocacy.
All right, well, I just want to first kind of start off by apologizing. I'm in the car on my way to a CTE advocacy meeting, I guess, and for the state of Virginia. But I want to kind of start off by talking about what advocacy means to me. The first thing that a lot of people will think about when it comes to advocacy is lobbying, Congress or state legislators, and I think advocacy is more than that. It's also about bringing awareness to a cause and an issue. It's not just about the political figures. You want to bring light and promote a cause or an issue, and you want to make a result, but if you don't make an immediate one, that's okay. You're just trying to promote an issue or get awareness out to people, and you're not going to get an immediate result. And I wanted to kind of start off by what I'm going to talk about is basically my experience in advocacy from a chapter level all the way to a national level. So first of all, I want to start off with last year for my high school DECA project. I competed in a public relations campaign on fire safety in college and university campuses, and we took over 90 kids to Capitol Hill to lobby all of Congress, and we ended up actually getting 3 extra co-signers at the end of the day. We held a rally right outside on Capitol Hill grounds, and it was really successful. However, the bill did not pass, but it was just bringing awareness and sitting down with senators and congressmen about the issue and how big of an issue it is in their states and in their areas was just a step we needed. And from there, we actually went on to have a movie screening at George Mason University of a documentary titled After the Fire, and that brought awareness to college students and the community on the dangers of fire safety in college and university campuses, and how important it is to have these fire regulations within your college and universities. And from a state level, Virginia DECA is really big into their product Ellie's Hats right now, and Ellie's Hats is a nonprofit organization that collects brand new hats for children with childhood cancer. And right now we have the statewide campaign going on, and basically chapters are being asked to collect a certain number of hats, and they'll be rewarded at our SLC conference, which is at the end of in March. And with Ellie's Hats, we're bringing awareness to childhood cancer. I'm sorry, it's late. But basically, a lot of different schools are doing different things for Ellie's Hats. One school did a holiday bazaar with different crafts and people to bring awareness to Ellie's Hats, and all donations went to Ellie's Hats. Another school at their Friday night football game did a hat off, which each school had to collect a certain number of hats to compete against each other. And this is just bringing awareness of Ellie's hats in childhood cancer to the community and to everyone around them. And that's not even impacting political figures in any way. And last, I want to talk about CTEs and CTSOs. Right now, I'm on my way to the capital of Virginia, Richmond, to talk to state legislators about the importance of CTEs and CTSOs within our state. But in November, at Power Trip, the state officers of Virginia met with both senators of Virginia and each of our own congressmen that represents us, and we talked to them about the importance of CTSOs and CTEs. And actually, what came with that result was Senator Kane of Virginia talking about CTEs and CTSOs because he finds them to be very important and wants to start introducing them more to middle schools. And so looking at it now, when you take it from a national to a state and more to a chapter level, you can make an impact from pretty much anywhere you are, whether it's just telling people about an issue or even going to your legislators. That's pretty much my experience and what I think advocacy means, and just promoting a cause and bringing awareness to certain issues. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Virginia. That was awesome hearing about some stuff that you did with your association officer team as well as your chapter. So that was really cool. Next, we'll move on to Alex, the representative from Arizona.
All right, so essentially what I'm going to be discussing is more of the different types of people and places to advocate to. So first of all, one of the biggest things that I've seen so far as a state officer when it comes to advocacy is our school visits. For Arizona, we take our state officers and we all go and visit multiple different high schools per year. Each state officer covers the ones in their area. It's very, very powerful because we have a 90-minute presentation already set up. But basically what we do is we tell our DECA story while also sharing more about the organization, starting off with how it was founded, and then by the end of it we're talking about the future events being held this year that all the kids can participate. And by the time you're done telling your own DECA story and the amazing things you've done and the places you've gone, everyone wants to do all those things. And so you top it all off and you show them you can do it too. It's a really big deal, especially for our state. Now, on top of high school presentations, though, something I think that a lot of us would benefit from is chapters, I believe, should start maybe even going and visiting middle schools. I know that DECA has talked about opening up more junior high school chapters and different things like that. But going out and talking and advocating to your middle schools around your high school's area could be huge for you, because then all of a sudden these guys, right away, they're going to hit their freshman year with the ground running, and they're going to be wanting to go into DECA, okay? So I think middle school, great. Another big one, though, is advocating to the local businesses around your DECA chapter. Really, when you do that, it creates a lot of different opportunities and potential. You think about maybe a few different of the deals that you guys can participate in with your local businesses, on top of creating beneficial relationships that go both ways. Personally, for my own DECA chapter, we have different relationships with managers and owners of different companies around the area. And sometimes we have those managers even come in, actually not even sometimes, a lot of times, actually every semester, they'll come in, they'll interview our students. Sometimes just for mock interviews for practice, so our marketing students can work on their social skills. But in other ways, we actually have kids that get hired too, unexpectedly. It's really, really strong for our chapter. It helps our kids out a lot. So having those relationships with companies around you, really, really huge, really beneficial. Another one is obviously advocating to the politicians around you. When it comes to the government, the federal government funds a lot of our different programs, and at the state level as well. The state officers, we actually got to go to Washington, D.C. over the summer, and we got to advocate to our own politicians, our federal congressmen who represent us. And we got to discuss the Carl Perkins Act and different things on top of that. Now, you don't have to just talk to your federal congressman, because it is very difficult to get a meeting with them. They're all very, very busy people. But even if you can't get a meeting with them, look into your own state Senate or House of Representatives in your own state legislature. My school had a few of those guys come down to our own chapter, and they helped us out a lot. Okay, so anything goes, anything works. Also, really, really big one for my chapter. You see, my chapter, we have 516 members right now. And I think we're actually going to build on top of that this year. So a lot of members, it takes a lot of money to operate that kind of chapter. And we get most of our funding from parents, not businesses, but parents. Because parents with tax credit money, we hit up as many parents as we can for tax credit money. So definitely do not forget to advocate to parents. They build up a lot of DECA. Because on top of the tax credit, you can use parents as volunteers, chaperones on DECA trips if they're required. Also, have them sign up to be judges at your own district or state conference events. Parents can be really, really beneficial to a chapter and to DECA as an organization whole. Just so you know, if any of you don't know yet, for married parents, they can donate at least $400 up to tax credit and $200 if they are single. Now, we are in tax season right now, so it might be a little more difficult to earn that money, but I'm telling you right now, if you try to go after parents for tax credit money around November, December, those months leading up to the tax credit season, oh my gosh, you'll earn so much money because the parents understand that they're going to be earning that money right back once tax season hits. So definitely keep that in mind for next year. Last, I think we forget a lot of the time that we forget to advocate to our own students at our own chapters. That's really how you build your membership and build your chapters, advocating to the kids on your campus. Sometimes we feel like also that, you know, maybe we've already advocated to as many kids as we can. But you don't realize sometimes how large your school is and how many kids would love to be in an organization like DECA. That's how my school got 516 members, because we advocated to as many kids as we possibly could. And we told them about the benefits of DECA, you know, on top of just marketing yourself. Because you don't have to just be a business student to want to be in DECA. You can be somebody who's just trying to be better in interviews, be better at public speaking. DECA offers all these different opportunities, and so it's so easy to go out and talk to these students because they're all interested. So I would definitely say that when it comes to advocacy, students might be one of your biggest priorities that you don't even realize yet. So that's my spiel. I definitely believe in all of those different types of advocacy, but one last thing is just when you do advocate to all of them, be passionate about it. Be passionate about the organization that you believe in, because that's really what's going to get them going, is when they know you honestly believe in what you're talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alec. That was awesome. I really I enjoyed the part about the parents. I think that is a tremendous point, and you touched on the fact that it's not just money. That why advocacy is so important. It's the fact that you can have them as judges. You can have them as chaperones, you know, all things that we need, and we need manpower. So going after those parents as professional membership, that's tremendous. So that was an awesome point. So Carter has a lot of experience as a 3-time state president for South Dakota, as well as last year's national president. So I'm going to turn it over to Carter, talking about advocacy.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. I'll go over about 3 or 4 different points here. I'm going to first start off with kind of my advocacy experience being in DECA. So when I was a state or chartered association president, we did a bunch of different events, and we started off with an event at our state capitol where DECA officers and other CTSO officers went and we shadowed our state legislators. Our House Representative members and our state senators. I shadowed a senator for an entire day, and just shadowing them, seeing what they do, going to their committee meetings, how they decide on different bills, all those different things. And it was very interesting to me just to see that process. One thing too, even in that shadow experience, was every so often the state senator would talk to me about, okay, so tell me a little bit about DECA. Tell me a little bit about, you know, what's your position in DECA, Carter? What are you doing? Why are you in DECA? Why are you so passionate about it? So that was an amazing opportunity that I had to have a one-on-one experience, you know, with hands-on advocacy to an individual that, you know, decides on a lot of different things in regards to education funding and our CTE funding. Another cool opportunity was going up for a legislative breakfast and advocacy day with other CTSOs in South Dakota, where I actually was able to help lead a legislative breakfast, an event with other CTSO leaders, just to advocate and tell about the 20 or 30 state representatives that were there a little bit about what CTE is, what CTSOs do, etc. Like Zach said, I was a national officer, now executive officer, last year, and one thing that I did with my officer team was went to Washington, D.C. and advocated with all of our federal level United States Congress members. I was able to meet with 2 of the congressional members from South Dakota directly with them. They had enough time to meet with me, and then I met with an education staffer from our 3rd congressional member. So one thing that Alex said was, work with the state legislators, and I completely agree with that. And a great thing, too, is that our federal level legislators as well also have local offices that aren't in Washington, D.C., usually in some of the larger cities in your state. So, reach out to them, and if you're local, you can still meet with federal level employees in your state. So advocating in Washington, D.C. was a great experience as well. The people in Washington, D.C. are in charge of something called the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act, which maybe some of you have heard a little bit about. That act was actually established in 1984. It was reauthorized in 1996, reauthorized again, I believe, in 2006, and actually this next year in 2016, it's going to be up for reauthorization again. And I just want to say how crucial it is that we focus on just how important the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act. So that act from the federal government distributes or authorizes $1.3 billion to be distributed to our states based on, I think, population or based on student enrollment. I can't remember which one of those it is. But each of the states gets a portion of that $1.3 billion. And that's up again in 2016. That's one of the ways that your chapter gets funded, is through when the state receives that federal money, the state then allocates to different school districts and different career technical programs, how much money they get. So that's really critical. A big portion of our funding comes from the Carl D. Perkins $1.3 billion that we get from out in Washington, D.C. So that's going to be up again in 2016, and it could easily be cut, it could be expanded upon, but we need to make sure that as supporters of DECA and supporters of CTSOs, we are strategizing on how to make sure we get our U.S. congressional members to support that. So that kind of brings me down to the importance of advocacy. So like I said, DECA chapters, obviously get support from grants. They get support from local businesses financially. But again, a lot of that comes from, a lot of the funding also comes from what we get from the Carl D. Perkins Career Technical Education Act. So it's very important to go out and meet with your U.S. congressional members or their staffers at offices in your state. It's important to meet with your state legislators as well, and it's important to meet with your township leadership or your city council leadership, because ultimately, they decide on a lot. So that's why it's so critical for DECA students to get involved, especially during the upcoming Advocacy Month, because a lot of people that aren't in DECA are in charge of how DECA operates. So that's that's a very, very critical thing. Let me see what else I have here in my notes that I was going to bring up. One thing, too, to keep in mind is if you go on DECA's website or you just Google DECA Congressional Advisory Board, this was another thing that my team last year worked hard on, and it was to get different U.S. congressional members to sign on to a bipartisan congressional advisory board called DECA's Congressional Advisory Board, just saying that they support what DECA does. They support how DECA prepares, emerging leaders and prepares students for future careers. And it's a bipartisan advisory board. I believe that those U.S. congressional members don't have much of a responsibility in the Congressional Advisory Board regard, other than they sign on saying that they support it. So the biggest thing that I'd love to promote to you guys out there is work with your chapter officer teams and work with the chartered association officer teams to try to get your U.S. congressional members to sign on to that Congressional Advisory Board, because that's a major step. If we have your U.S. congressman on our Congressional Advisory Board, we know that we have, obviously an ally, again, in the upcoming 2016 reauthorization of that $1.3 billion that DECA gets a portion of. So look into the Congressional Advisory Board. I really encourage all of you guys to stay followed up and connected with DECA during Advocacy Month. Also stay connected to ACTE, Association for Career and Technical Education, because they give out tons and tons of information just on how DECA operates and how DECA gets funded, along with some of our other CTSO programs that we partner with. So I guess that's just a little bit of what I was going to share with everybody tonight, Zach. So I will hand it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Carter. That was awesome. One thing that my team did during our summer training in Washington, D.C. was we went to the Capitol and we met with different representatives, congressmen, senators, as well as their staff to talk about the Carl D. Perkins Act. And like Carter said, it's up for reauthorization, and we were hoping, we were advocating for restoration of funds. Funds have been cut over the past couple of years, so it's important that we restore the levels of funding to how it was in years past, because our membership has grown so much. Another thing that we talked about that we really weren't expecting to until we got there is the Michelle Obama's school lunch reform. It has been really affecting a lot of DECA school stores very negatively. So we spoke with many congressmen and senators about the legislation, and although its intents are really good and support food and better dieting in public schools, there are also some negative effects. For instance, DECA school stores, it really hurts funding for DECA trips, as well as DECA's programs at the chapter level. So there's just one thing to think about when you are advocating for DECA and CTE. So I want to talk briefly about the Advocacy Campaign, which is coming up. The Advocacy Campaign is the last of the chapter campaigns, and what it involves is 3 school outreach activities, 3 public policy maker outreach activities, as well as 3 community outreach activities. So an example of the school outreach activity could just be as simple as having a table set up during your lunch, giving out flyers, trying to promote people to join DECA and take marketing classes next year. It could be something as simple as that. A public policymaker outreach activity could be writing a letter to your congressman or your senator asking them to join the Congressional Advisory Board, or asking them to support the reauthorization of the Perkins Act. You don't have to fly out to Washington, D.C. to have an effect with your state and your national representatives. And then lastly, as a community outreach activity, why not go around to local businesses, try to get them to become professional members, something that Alec touched on. It's so important, and it can increase your chapter membership, your association membership, which then results in more allocations for your association to attend ICDC, something that we're all striving towards this year in Orlando. So that's basically the Advocacy Campaign. It is due March 2nd, and it involves those 9 activities, 3 from each of those, during the month of February, Advocacy Month. Although we're allowing you to do a couple of activities towards the end of January to help you get a jump start, the Advocacy Campaign is a great way for your chapter to get involved and earn recognition. You will earn a pennant, a special plaque from DECA's Congressional Advisory Board, as well as a letter of recognition sent to your school administrators as well as your government officials, showing and bragging about your accomplishments. So that's it for the Advocacy Campaign. If you have any questions on the Advocacy Campaign, please feel free to email me at decazachshire@gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or direct you to the information that you need. So I just have 2 questions, if our panelists are willing to stick around for a little bit. Just 2 questions. One is, if you could pick the most important thing, just one thing about advocacy that you want someone to leave this hangout knowing, what would that be? And either of you are welcome to start. I think Virginia got disconnected.
I'll go ahead and start off, Carter, if that's fine.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I did touch on this actually at the end of my whole spiel, but like I was talking about, is passion. My whole thing about it is, if you're going to advocate for something, make sure that you are passionate about it, that you really believe in it. Don't do it just to do it or because somebody wants you to do it. Do it because you believe in it. I mean, you talked about the Michelle Obama Act. One thing that I've learned from that is I've never seen high school students so passionate about anything before in their life going against that act, because now they don't get their munchies at school. Now, the funny part about that, though, is just you can see that they are passionate about it. And in DECA, when we want to sell DECA to students or to our politicians or to local businesses, we have to show them that we are passionate about it. This is something that's important in my life. This is something that's changed me for the best, something that's made me get to travel, something that's made me learn how to speak better, speak in front of thousands of people, something that's going to help me progress in my career. Be passionate about it. Let them know how passionate about it and how much you care about it. Because when you do something like that, that's when you really reach your audience's full potential, by being able to tell them everything you want to tell them, not just through your words, but through your emotions. So I would think that is the most important thing I could say, because no matter who you're advocating to, that's going to be really what breaks it all down for you. And back to you, Zach, or Carter, whichever.
Okay, sure. You know, touching on that, yeah, you definitely have to be passionate about what you're doing, and as DECA members, we need to be passionate about the things that keep DECA afloat. And obviously, I go back to the money we get from the government. Obviously, we get another portion of our how we operate from, you know, corporate sponsors, from grants, other things we get. But understand how we operate, and understand that there are a lot of outside factors away from DECA that impact how we operate. So really be the person at your chapter, at your chartered association, that leads the way in saying, hey folks, we've got, you know, this really big thing coming up in 2016, or we've got, you know, a lot of work to get done in order to get financial support, in order to get, you know, just support from government officials or from anybody else, you know, and be the person that makes that, you know, that takes that charge. You know, and I go back to a bunch of other things that I've worked on, and you know, there's a difference, you know, between somebody who's on the sidelines watching and then somebody who's actually out, you know, playing on the field. Somebody who's out, you know, trying to score the points, and our points in this case would be, you know, getting that support, that financial support, and that corporate support. So be the person that takes charge. Be the person that educates yourself. You know, 10 minutes of a night to read about the different things that fund and operate DECA, and then teach others about it, and get other people passionate about, you know, getting out there and fighting for what we believe in. And that's, you know, to support groups like DECA that impact over 200,000 students and even more across the country. So that'd be one of my biggest pieces of advice that I'd want to leave the Hangout with for you guys.
Awesome. Both awesome answers. And one thing, a question that a member sent in is, a lot of what we talked about on this Hangout was geared towards, you know, maybe going to Washington or going to your state capital and speaking with your legislators, making those I guess changes on a more national or international scale. But what's something that a chapter can do to have an impact in their local community?
I'll go first. A big thing that you can have an impact in your local community, and this is actually something that the association officers here in my home state are doing, is getting, you know, simple things like a proclamation from the mayor, or a proclamation from the governor, declaring DECA Day or DECA Month or anything like that. That's really critical, and that's something that's very easy to do. You know, at the local level, it's just as important to reach out to city council members, talk to them about what DECA is, talk to them about what DECA is doing in the community that those city council members and that mayor, you know, oversee. So, you know, reach out to your local government as well, you know, because they will be your connection and your channel to get out into your local community. You know, obviously it's very critical to talk to your federal level congressional members, talk to your state legislators, but it's also important, you know, like this question is, you know, talking about, it's very important to have a good connection with local city leaders through even small things like a proclamation or just a presentation during one of their informational meetings. So that'd be kind of a good way to get started at the local level for local chapters.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Carter and everything you just said right now. To kind of go off of that, I know, Zach, you had mentioned earlier about something as simple as writing a letter to your legislator. things like that. That's something that my chapter has actually done before in the past. But one thing that we did try out this year that was very successful is, can't say necessarily if this is on the national scale or not, but I know in Arizona we do have a Take Your Legislator to School Day. So a lot of schools around my area and all the other areas around Arizona will be able to have a legislator come visit their school. So DECA, the DECA chapter at my school, we had a legislator come down, and yeah, he spent some time around on the campus, but the majority was spent in the marketing room learning more about DECA. So there's one thing. But also, just like Carter said, yeah, definitely look at your local people, your council members, your mayors. Those guys, you can contact them too. It doesn't have to be on the federal level. So I definitely agree with reaching out to those guys. Representatives for your state House of Representatives or your state Senate, not on the national federal level, but just within your state. There's a lot more senators and representatives to go around, so try to find one of them who might be interested in coming down and talking to your school. Otherwise, definitely something like a letter or a video, make a promo, even if it's like a 5-minute promo video, something that shows them a little bit more about DECA, maybe in a fun way that they can just kind of see real quick or read real quick. Won't take too much of their time, so you'll know they'll do it, but something as little as that could make an impact and will definitely help benefit your chapter.
Awesome. One thing I wanted everyone to leave the Hangout with is a bit of advice I have is don't be intimidated. Your congressmen and senators are there to serve you, their constituents, and they want to hear from you. They love hearing from passionate students who are highly motivated and overachievers. They want to hear from you. Don't be intimidated to give them a phone call, write them a letter, stop by their office. That's why they're here. They're our representatives in Washington and in your state capital. So don't be intimidated at all. So thank you everyone for joining our Hangout where we discussed advocacy, and I want to thank our panelists, Alec, Carter, and Virginia, who again got disconnected, for their awesome input on advocacy and sharing their experience with us. I know Johnny would have loved to be here, but Johnny wanted me to tell you that how important it is when you get to college and you're either joining Collegiate DECA or starting a Collegiate DECA chapter, but reach out to the dean, reach out to the student government at your college or university, and tell them what DECA is and how important it is and how DECA helped you get to that university in the first place. So yeah, that's something that Johnny wanted me to share, again, the collegiate president who couldn't make it tonight. But thank you everyone so much for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot, and I can't wait to see those advocacy campaigns come in before the March 2nd deadline. Thank you so much. Have a great night.